Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Of course, I forgot to film an intro for this video because I was on my honeymoon, so we're just gonna dive right in. This is my vlog for our stay in Cape Town. We stayed at the Cape Town one and only, and if you've been following along, this is the third stop on my honeymoon. You can also check out my safari and Seychelles video. Now this hotel, we stayed in the smallest room that we had throughout our trip, so we didn't get any crazy suite. We just got a pretty standard room. It was still absolutely beautiful, but our reason for doing this was because we figured we would be out and about a lot more in Cape Town than we were in some other of our stops, and we were absolutely right. I don't think you need to splurge on a huge luxury suite when you're in Cape Town. This was our view from one and only, and overall, this hotel was beautiful. The staff was great. We didn't get a chance to eat there or even go to the bar because there is so much to do in Cape Town, but it was very centrally located at the V&A waterfront, and we loved that. Now this was day one, exploring around the V&A waterfront, and they have this area with a ton of different shops. Now I have to say, navigating Cape Town can be super tricky. We don't know anyone that's been to Cape Town. We really did the best that we absolutely could. We had travel agents, and this was something that we researched a lot, but I feel like when you stay at the V&A waterfront, it definitely feels like you could be anywhere. There's not a ton of necessarily specifically South African culture, so we felt like we could have been back in New York, we could have been in Boston, we could have been just like tons of different places because everything was very new and built up and modern. So I have to say it was super fun, but it is a little bit challenging to know exactly where to go when your hotel is located there. This is our view of Table Mountain from right by our hotel, and we went to the food hall at the V&A waterfront. It was great. We tried a ton of different things, and then we just walked around on our first day. So this is what you see around that area. There's also a massive brand new mall, and again, while I will say I don't recommend going to the mall necessarily on your visit to Cape Town, it was something that was super nearby our hotel, and we were just kind of exploring and didn't even know it was there. So we stumbled upon it, we went in, and then we had dinner, which was absolutely amazing. You gotta see it. After getting cocktails at the Silo Hotel, we had dinner at Kloof Street House, and we got the seafood platter for two. We had tons of king clip while we were in Cape Town specifically, and it's just a very amazing white fish. I don't think I've had king clip before, so I loved it. And then there was shrimps, there was mussels, we had oysters. It was so good, and honestly, this restaurant is so beautiful. The next morning, we had a tour from a tour company called Wineland's Guide, and they are amazing. I highly recommend booking a tour with them. This was our Cape Peninsula tour, so we saw tons of stuff. We saw the Cape of Good Hope and just a bunch of other things. We saw Chapman's Peak, which is a scenic route that I'll show you a little bit later, and we saw a bunch of animals when we were on our way and out and about. So we saw these baboons, and then we had our first stop just to grab some coffee, and I'll show you what this tour was like. Finally, we made it to the Cape of Good Hope. I I think you definitely need to always remember to pack so many layers in Cape Town and throughout South Africa, honestly, because I felt the same way for safari and when we were in French Hook. So I would definitely say you want to pack layers because it was definitely a bit more chilly over here. But the Cape of Good Hope was super cool. It's within a national park. And again, I feel like getting a tour guide to do this was really the way to go. We only had 3 days and 2 nights in Cape Town, and we wanted to fit in as much as possible. And then we took the funicular up to see the lighthouse. Hello friends, we are exploring the Cape of Good Hope. We just took the funicular? Funicular? With an F?
I have no idea.
We don't know. We just took it up. We're gonna explore the lighthouse. We're having a great day. We have our guide from Wineland's Guide. His name is Colin. He's an icon, he's a gem, he's great, and he's taking us around today. So let's do it. After we made our way down, of course, we had to see the penguins. Now, I think in general, Richard and I don't really tend to do a lot of touristy stuff when we travel, but we figured we didn't know if we would ever come back to Cape Town again in our life. So we really just wanted to try and see as much as we could, and we thought this tour would be a good way. I think ultimately it was, and Wineland's Guides was such an amazing tour company, but it wasn't necessarily the favorite thing that I did on my honeymoon. Cheers! This is the cherry beer, cherry ale. Oh, it is actually really good. We had lunch at this spot that our tour guide Colin recommended, and we had an ostrich burger, and of course I had king clip again, and this was such a good meal. I loved it. The view was beautiful. There was a lot of locals there, so it was very cool. And then we went on our scenic drive of Chapman's Peak, which you're gonna see in just a moment. I will say this was my favorite part of the day. This drive was truly breathtaking, and honestly, this video does not do it justice. Like, it was blowing my mind, and yeah, had to be my favorite part of the day. Even though it seems so simple, this whole scene right here was very much giving like James Bond. I was like, this has to be in like so many spy movies, just like the way that the road is carved into the mountain. But it was very cool, and I actually really did love that we did this. Good morning. We woke up bright and early and we went to Robben Island. Now, friends, I have to say, this was by far the best thing that we did in Cape Town. Now, you might know, I'm getting my master's right now at Columbia, focusing on human rights and focusing on the carceral system in the United States. Robben Island is a notorious prison for political prisoners in South Africa, heavily used during apartheid. This is where Nelson Mandela was sentenced for many years of his life. And while this was absolutely heartbreaking, I feel like it's not surprising. I was crying almost the whole time we were there, because it's obviously a very, dark place that is steeped in so much racist history. I also feel like it was so moving, and our tour guide was just one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. A lot of the tour guides, most of them are actually people that were previously incarcerated at this very prison. So I feel like it's an absolute must do. It is so moving, and I just think it is so necessary. Once we got back to shore, we made our way to the city center of Cape Town, left the V&A waterfront, and just did some exploring, but I didn't keep my camera out the whole time because I didn't want to be screaming tourist as I walked down the street. Now, this evening we went to La Colombe. La Colombe is a bit of a drive. It's one of the most famous restaurants in Cape Town, so you may have heard of it. And I didn't record a ton of this because I didn't want to have my phone out and my camera out the entire time, but I did get a few clips. Overall, I will say Richard and I are super fortunate that we have done a good amount of tasting menus. And so I think in and of itself, if you've never done a tasting menu, this is a pretty good value because the US dollar and the euro do have a lot of value here, but I did not love the food. I don't think that I would recommend this to a friend, unfortunately, even though the service was amazing. Then we made our way to a speakeasy. It is a notorious speakeasy in Cape Town, and I feel like I shouldn't even say the name of it because they are like, don't be trash, don't tell people where this is, don't tell people anything about it. So you have to find it for yourself. The next day, we made our way back for another tour with Winelands guides, and this was actually bringing us to our final stop of our honeymoon. So we actually did this wine tasting at like 10 in the morning, and we loved this winery. Now, guys, I'm the literal worst person ever because I did not write down the names of any of these wineries, but this one is super old. Those cobwebs in the window are real, and they've made a deal with the original owner. This is like kind of a little bit of folklore that they would not do any changes to the inside of this winery, so that's why it looks so old and so dusty, but it was so cool. The wine was amazing. I feel like a quick Google, you can find the name of this. Then we made our way to our second winery, and we actually bought a bottle here. We loved it. We tried, honestly, by the end of our day, we had tried about 30 different wines. So we're making our way from Cape Town through Stellenbosch and finishing in French Hook because our final hotel is La Residence, and I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek in that, letting you know that La Residence was the best hotel I've ever stayed in my life and just the overall highlight of our honeymoon. So that's coming up in the next video. But we got a little charcuterie board on our way, and then finally made it to our final leg of our tour, and we finished out at Thelema. I do remember the name of that winery because we made a great friend with one of the sommeliers that work there that we actually met on the safari. So he treated us like absolute royalty, and Thelema is a beautiful winery. Highly recommend. And friends, I'll see you in the next video in French Hook.